I really envy you. You've just come across an absolutely thrilling masterpiece. If you finish watching and think it's boring, you can come right over and slap me in the face. The Korean drama I'm talking about today can truly be called an unprecedented masterpiece. When 600,000 people gave it a high score of 8.9, I knew this series based on a true story would never let anyone down. The Glory, a drama that transforms school bullying into a story of revenge, tells the tale of a girl who was labeled as weak because she was poor, and therefore suffered long-term bullying from her wealthy classmates. Even her own mother chose to abandon her. Helpless and alone, the girl spent over 10 years carefully planning, and without spilling a single drop of blood, she made every bad person wish they were dead. Now let me tell you this story all in one breath, and let's see why this masterpiece is so incredible. The story takes place at a school in Korea, where a frail high school girl is dragged onto the playground, surrounded by a few classmates. From the fear in her eyes, you can tell what kind of people they are in this school and that she is the target of their constant abuse, simply because she is poor.
고데기 열 체크 좀 해줄래?
Then the girl is pinned against the wall, and someone heartlessly presses a 200-degree curling iron against her arm. She screams in unbearable pain, her cries echoing through the entire gym. Within seconds, her arm is covered with red burns, but no matter how much she screams, no one comes to help, because they have already locked all the gym doors. The leader of the bullies doesn't want to hear her crying anymore, so she orders one of the boys to cover the girl's mouth. Later, the girl can no longer bear such torment and reports them to the police, but she never imagined how powerful their parents are. One phone call to the police chief, and everything is handled instantly. Not only are they not punished, but the homeroom teacher rushes to the station just to scold the girl harshly.
교복 쳐입고 경찰서를 와? 친구끼리 장난 좀 친 거 가지고 신고를 해? 그 전화를 교감이...
When he sees the bullies, he suddenly smiles kindly, and for the first time, the girl realizes how terrifying power can be. What happened next made her even more desperate. When she returned to school, she showed her burn scars to the teacher and told him everything the bullies had done to her in detail. But the teacher raised his hand as if to strike her and said, "What's the big deal about a few burn marks?"
그럼 선생님 아들도 친구들한테 한 대 맞아도 괜찮으시겠어요?
This enrages him even more. He can't stand hearing anyone speak badly of his son, and in front of all the teachers, he slaps the girl over and over again. Humiliated, the girl returns to her shabby rented room, but just as she reaches the door, she hears the voices of the bullies inside. She realizes something's wrong, and before she can escape, one of the boys coming back with alcohol grabs her and drags her in. The 200,000 won she had worked so hard to save becomes their joke to them. It's just the cost of one meal, but to her, it's the reward for countless tears and endless hard work. Now she faces two choices: dance for their amusement and get her money back, or suffer again under that scorching curling iron. For a moment, she stands there facing their sneering faces, not knowing what to do, allowing them to humiliate her again. This miserable life continues for 6 long months, until she completely loses hope in life. Finally, she can't take it anymore and stands on the edge of a tall building, ready to end her pain. But when she looks down from dozens of meters high, she steps back. A snowflake falls on her burned scars. Its chill eases her pain a little. She grabs a handful of snow and rubs it on her leg, but the itching doesn't stop. In the end, she takes off all her clothes and lies down on the freezing ground at this moment. Even the snow is warmer than the bullies' hearts. The next day, her mother is called to the school by the teacher. She still has no idea how much her daughter has suffered, and with just a small gesture, the bully's mother easily buys her off. The purpose of this meeting is simple. First, to get her to sign a settlement letter, and second, to agree to her daughter's expulsion. And blinded by money, the mother signs her name without hesitation. All her life, she's ignored her daughter, and when her daughter needs her most, she stabs her in the back, even canceling her daughter's lease with the landlord. So all her belongings are thrown out into the hallway. Looking at the withdrawal papers and the cold signature of her own mother, the girl feels like the sky has fallen. With no other choice, she starts doing day jobs and cleaning bathhouses at night to survive. The burns on her body itch terribly whenever she works in heat, and the only way she can relieve it is by standing by the river, letting the freezing wind soothe her skin because she has no money for medicine. She keeps hitting her arm in frustration, and with each desperate cry, the thought of ending her life returns. But dying would be too easy for the people who hurt her, so she makes a secret vow: they will all pay for what they've done. A few days later, those bullies set their sights on another poor student, and just then, the girl came to the gym alone. When they saw her, their eyes lit up, not realizing she was there to take a stand. She's been watching their social media, learning about their dreams. The cruel queen bee dreams of becoming a perfect wife and mother. Lee Sa-rae wants to be a painter. Jeon Jae-jun will inherit his family's fortune. Choi Hae-jong wants to be a flight attendant. And Sun Myung-oh dreams of getting rich overnight.
꿈은 너네가 갖는 거지. 너나 얘나 제가. 난 너네가 꿈 이루면 돈 주고 부리는 거고, 난 꿈이 아니라 직업이 필요하지. 적당히 안 짜치는 그런 직업.
The queen bee's family is filthy rich, and her only goal is to find a decent job, then marry into money while she's still young, living a comfortable life as a virtuous wife.
그래서 넌 꿈이 뭔데?
너. 오늘부터 내 꿈은 너야. 우리 꼭 또 보자, 박연진.
From that moment, the girl works tirelessly while secretly planning her revenge. Since the queen bee dreams of a perfect family life, she'll make her experience what it's like to lose everything. She studies every night, sacrificing sleep, and after years of effort, she finally gets accepted into the most prestigious university in Korea. Her name is Dong-eun, and on this day, after 3 years of part-time jobs, she walks through the university gates, the place where her dreams begin, and where her revenge begins. All the bullies have achieved their dreams, except Sun Myung-oh, who dreamed of getting rich fast. Once the errand boy of the group, now nothing more than their servant, the only one who failed. Dong-eun keeps track of all of them, watching their every move. The queen bee, Yeonjin, now has a respectable job and a good person reputation, which helped her marry into a rich family. At Yeonjin's wedding, everyone is smiling and laughing, except her old bullying friends, because they're the only ones who know what kind of person she really is. That day, Dong-eun also attends the wedding. This is the moment she's been waiting for. Yeonjin's marriage marks the start of her plan for revenge. During her 4 years in college, Dong-eun befriends an older student and learns that his father was her former teacher. One day, she brings a bouquet of lilies to visit him.
2004년도에 자퇴했던 문동훈이요. 기억 안 나세요?
The teacher can't believe that the girl he once expelled is now a teacher herself and a friend of his son. He freezes, unaware of her real purpose. He suffers from asthma and has a severe allergy to lilies. And this is the first dose of payback Dong-eun gives him.
장학사 시험 붙으셨더라고요.
넌 뭔 소식이 이렇게 빨라? 나도 듣자마자 온 건데.
훌륭한 교육자 집안이시잖아요. 저 자퇴선 됐던 날도 시계까지 풀어놓으시고.
그 입 안 닫혀!
아버지.
이런 거머리 같은 년, 이 쓰레기 같은 년.
His son doesn't know what's going on. He rushes to take his father home. Indeed, nothing has changed except that bad people have gotten older. Later, Dong-eun tells the son everything about his father's crimes. If she were to send this to the education board, his government job would be ruined. This field values reputation, and his father would become the obstacle to his future. That night, the son fills the house with lilies and confronts his father.
이제 아버지가 제게 해주실 수 있는 거 하나밖에 없어요. 존경스러운 아버지로, 근정 훈장 수상자 아버지로 남아주세요. 부탁드려요.
In the end, the teacher dies in his own guilt, while the old group chat of bullies is still wondering where Dong-eun is, and whether she's still the same timid girl she used to be. At that very moment, Yeonjin gets a call from her 7-year-old daughter. Mom, our new homeroom teacher says she's your old friend. Her name is Dong-eun. Hearing that name, Yeonjin freezes, unsure if it's the same girl she once bullied. She slams on the gas and races to her daughter's school. She bursts into the room and sees the new teacher.
너 이거 우연 아니구나?
아니지. 여기까지 오는데 우연은 단 한 줄도 없었어.
나 지금 네가 짬판에 제대로 들어온 거지?
She used to think Dong-eun's life would go nowhere, that she'd marry a nobody and live poor forever. But to her surprise, Dong-eun has completely transformed.
그럼 그냥 그때 죽었어야지! 누구 좋으라고? 너 같은 나쁜 년도 이렇게 잘만 사는데 내가 왜? 살아있으니 이렇게 또 만났잖아 우리. 특히 오늘 너무 재밌어. 나의 체육관에 온 걸 환영해, 연진아.
Years later, Yeon-jin is still as arrogant as ever. She threatens Dong-eun, resign right now, or I'll do whatever it takes. But Dong-eun is no longer the same weak girl standing here today means she's ready for everything. Yeon-jin still doesn't grasp how serious this is until she gets a group message. Their old teacher is dead. Behind Dong-eun's calm face, Yeon-jin sees a burning flame of revenge. Her eyes widen as cold fear runs through her body. On her way home, Yeon-jin's hands tremble. She begins to worry about her daughter's safety, panics, and accidentally burns a hole in her pants, completely breaking down. The next day, she uses her connections to meet with the school principal, trying to get Dong-eun fired just like her parents once got Dong-eun expelled. But this time she's underestimated her. Dong-eun was personally hired by the principal after secretly following him for months and gathering evidence. Now, no one in the world can fire her. When that fails, Yeon-jin turns to her wealthy husband, begging him to send their daughter abroad. But with no valid reason, he refuses. She can't tell him the truth about her past, because she knows he only married her for her looks and her image of being gentle and kind. She can't let him see the darkness inside her. Left with no choice, Yeon-jin returns to the school and spies on Dong-eun through the window, just in time to see her holding scissors near her daughter's shoulder. Yeon-jin is obsessed with her daughter, so for her sake, she swallows her pride and tries to negotiate, asking Dong-eun to name her price, hoping to erase the past with money. But Dong-eun didn't come this far for money, because if it were only about that, her revenge would have no meaning.
사과받자고 10대도 20대도 30대도 다 걸었을까? 넌 벌 받아야지. 신이 널 도우면 형벌, 신이 날 도우면 천벌.
Dong-eun's real target was never Yeon-jin's daughter, but rather to make the members of the bullying group destroy each other. So she set her sights on the one who had achieved nothing. Sun Myeon-oh. Back in high school, he was the one who humiliated Dong-eun the most and hit her the most. Yet among the 5 bullies, Sun Myeon-oh came from the poorest family. Over the years, he had been treated like a servant doing all the dirty and exhausting work. And once, he was even beaten and insulted by John Jae-jun just because he didn't clean up dog waste properly. After enduring years of oppression, he had finally had enough, dreaming that one day he could strike it rich and get away from these so-called friends. And so, greedy and not very smart, Sun Myeon-oh was about to become a pawn in Dong-eun's plan. They agreed to meet on the rooftop, the same place where Dong-eun once tried to end her own life, and also where one of their classmates had died. That classmate had been pushed off the rooftop by Yeon-jin, and Dong-eun had witnessed it with her own eyes. But since the victim had no family, the case had never been solved. Dong-eun told this story to Sun Myeon-oh for one reason: to push him to blackmail Yeon-jin and fulfill his dream of getting rich. From then on, Sun Myeon-oh became arrogant, ignoring everyone's calls, even breaking into John Jae-jun's house and stealing all the valuables. He then went to a travel agency and bought a one-way ticket to Haechangwi, planning to blackmail Yeon-jin and run away afterward. But overconfidence only leads to disaster. He thought Dong-eun needed his help, but in truth, she had already planned his death from the start. Sure enough, not long after, Sun Myeon-oh was killed by Yeon-jin because Dong-eun knew exactly how ruthless Yeon-jin could be. Dong-eun's next target was the drug-addicted Lee Sa-ra. Back in high school, she was the one who burned Dong-eun the most with the curling iron, and for years she had relied on Sun Myeon-oh to get her drugs from the black market. As the daughter of one of Korea's most famous pastors, she was a devout believer by day, but by night, she turned into a reckless addict lost in her own world. One day, while attending a church service with her family, she suddenly spotted a familiar face among the congregation. It was Dong-eun. The two met in the hallway afterward, and Lee Sa-ra, still as arrogant as before, threatened Dong-eun to stop causing trouble. But Dong-eun calmly spoke the very words that touched her deepest fear.
너네 주님 개빡쳤어. 너 지옥행이래. 야! 너 쳐 돌았니? 약 처먹었어? 약은 네가 먹던데. 다양하게, 자주.
As the daughter of a famous pastor, addicted to and trafficking drugs behind everyone's back, if that truth were ever exposed, her entire family's reputation would be ruined, and her father's position as a pastor would be finished. So Dong-eun threw her a bag and told her to fill it with money, and it had to be in US dollars.
너 그 협박에 X려나.
협박 안 받아봤구나. 협박은 시작도 안 했는데. 살아야.
For Lee Sae, money wasn't a problem, but with son Myung-oh suddenly gone, she had no one left to get her drugs, and that was what truly drove her insane. A few days later, Lee Sae handed Dong-eun a bag full of cash.
이 족밥 전전이 대가리에 구경수 좀 채웠다고 아주 1년이 됐네.
먼저 일어날게. 1년이 다음 일정이 있어서.
Dong-eun's next move was toward the gold digger, Choi Hae-jong. Back in high school, both Choi Hae-jong and Dong-eun were poor, and Lee Sae once said, if it weren't for Dong-eun, the one being bullied would have been Choi Hae-jong. So as an accomplice, Hae-jong was even crueler than the others. She bullied Dong-eun the most. Her obsession with becoming a flight attendant came from her desire to use the job to find a rich man and escape her social class. And indeed, she succeeded. She found a wealthy man who even gave her a diamond ring larger than a goose egg. To secure her place in the rich family, Choi Hae-jong pretended to be the perfect daughter-in-law, presenting her college diploma and medical checkup results to her future mother-in-law.
주거래 은행은 어디니? 네? 마이너스 통장만 줄줄이 사탕이면 나 분해서 못 살아.
우리 선생!
But when her fiancé's mother ran over to greet Dong-eun with excitement, Hae-jong's face instantly turned dark. She never expected her mother-in-law not only knew Dong-eun but also treated her with warmth and admiration, as if Dong-eun were the daughter-in-law she truly wanted. After a few polite words, Dong-eun turned to leave, but sensing trouble, Hae-jong quickly followed her, knowing full well why Dong-eun had come.
살려줘, 동훈아. 나 한 번만 살려줘. 그때 내가 실수했어. 얘기달란 말 아니야. 입이 10개라도 할 말 없어. 정말 잘못했어. 나 평생 속죄하는 마음으로 살았고 앞으로도 그럴 거야. 진짜야, 동훈아.
아직 시작도 안 했는데 벌써 무릎부터 꿇으면 어떡해. 나중에 뭐 하려고.
Then, Dong-eun casually picked up a match and held it near Hae-jong's face since she used her looks to climb the social ladder. Dong-eun wanted her to feel the fear of losing them, but she didn't actually hurt her, because Hae-jong still had her uses. Today was only a warning. Right then, Hae-jong's attitude flipped completely. She realized that her future mother-in-law would never truly like her, so if she wanted to secure her position, she'd have to play dirty with that rich heir herself. Then Dong-eun threw her a phone, and this time, Hae-jong panicked because just a few days ago, while fixing her makeup at the airport, someone had secretly swapped her phone. By the time she realized it, she was already abroad. She had thought it was just a mistake, not knowing that during that short time, Dong-eun had already seen everything hidden in her phone.
그러니 내가 너에 대해서 얼마나 많이 알고 있겠니, 혜정아.
나 이제부터 죽을 때까지 네 편이야, 동훈아.
Once again, the cowardly Hae-jong bowed down to power, but this time, her master was the very girl she used to bully, and that was something she would soon regret deeply. Next, Dong-eun set her sights on Yeonjin's two pillars of support: her wealthy husband and her former lover, Jeon Jae-joon. In this carefully crafted plan of revenge, Dong-eun still held one final trump card: Yeonjin's daughter. During an art class, Dong-eun discovered that the little girl showed clear signs of color blindness, a condition that is usually hereditary. But Yeonjin's husband wasn't colorblind. The real colorblind person was Jeon Jae-joon, who had been romantically involved with Yeonjin for over 20 years. Now, with two powerful men entangled in this web, how would Dong-eun play her next move? Since it was a game, she decided to find her breakthrough through the board itself. She had noticed long ago that the wealthy man loved spending his time playing Go. So Dong-eun spent a whole year mastering the game just to meet him in the Go Club. She wore a clean white shirt, her hair casually tied up, her eyes fixed on the board, surrounded by curious onlookers. When word spread that she had defeated every opponent in the club, even the best players, the businessman's curiosity was piqued. He watched her game closely, just as Dong-eun had planned. though there seemed to be more to this match than met the eye. As he was about to ask for her name, Dong-eun simply walked past him without even looking at him, and that was exactly the move she had planned to play on him. When he got home, the businessman replayed the game in his mind, trying to imagine himself playing against Dong-eun again. He realized that at a certain move, she had already secured victory, so why did she keep playing? That strange style of play successfully piqued his curiosity. Then on, every time he recalled the match, Dong-eun's face would appear in his mind, a delicate, graceful face, full of mystery and hidden pain. But what he didn't know was that the woman who haunted his thoughts was secretly watching his every move from next door. Each time he went to the Go Club, he looked around, quietly hoping to see Dong-eun again. But when she didn't show up, disappointment filled his heart. Then one day, just as he was about to leave in despair, Dong-eun suddenly appeared, and his heart began to race. His eyes couldn't leave her. Seeing Dong-eun seated, he rushed forward to play another game with her. Dong-eun's strategy was ruthless and sharp, causing his defense to collapse one move at a time. As the match grew more intense, his fascination turned into desire, and finally, he couldn't hold back and tried to talk to her.
기원 오랜만에 오셨죠?
But Dong-eun ignored him completely, her attention fixed on the board, leaving him so distracted that he didn't even realize how he lost. After the game, Dong-eun asked for her prize money, and once she received it, she turned and left without another word. The businessman tried to keep her by offering double the amount, but Dong-eun dismissed it as just another gamble and walked away. Later, they met again at a convenience store. This time, the businessman decided to drop his pride and handed her his business card, something most women would dream of receiving. But Dong-eun didn't take it. She simply picked up her rice ball and left. The next day, that photo arrived at his office, sent under the name Sun Myeon-ho. There was no threat, no demand for money, just the picture itself, like a silent test. And the trap worked. The businessman called the sender's number, only to find that Sun Myeon-ho was already dead. So he began investigating Sun's boss, who turned out to be John Jae-jun. What he didn't know was that this man had been having a secret relationship with his own wife, Yeon-jin, for 20 years. When the two men met for the first time, the businessman noticed that John Jae-jun and Yeon-jin were smoking the same brand of cigarettes. Suspicion began to grow in his heart. Now, all he wanted was to find Sun Myeon-ho, but John Jae-jun claimed he didn't know where he was. The two exchanged business cards and went their separate ways. A few days later, John Jae-jun received a strange package. Inside was a drawing made by Yeon-jin's daughter and her toothbrush. From the painting, he noticed something shocking: the little girl was colorblind, just like him. After running a DNA test on the toothbrush, the result showed a 99% genetic match. It turned out Yeon-jin had lied to him for years, raising their biological daughter with another man. Furious, John Jae-jun confronted Yeon-jin, grabbing her by the throat and demanding answers.
미친 건 너지. 감히 내 딸을 하도영의 딸로 만들어? 대답 똑바로 해.
When she refused to speak, he went to find the child and hugged her tightly. It was their first meeting as father and daughter. Looking at the innocent little girl, John Jae-jun swore he would take her back. Days later, Dong-eun held a parent-teacher meeting and invited all the fathers. When the businessman turned around, he was stunned to see John Jae-jun standing there too.
여긴 무슨 일로?
실은 제가 숨겨놓은 애가 있거든요. 농담인데.
John quickly tried to change the subject, saying he was just there to see an old classmate, but his eyes kept wandering toward Yeon-jin's daughter, and the businessman's heart sank. After so many coincidental encounters, the businessman could no longer ignore the truth. He met one of Yeon-jin's old classmates and finally learned what happened years ago, how Yeon-jin and her 4 friends had brutally bullied Dong-eun. That night, he asked Dong-eun to meet near the Go Club. He wanted to hear the full story, and Dong-eun didn't hide anything. She said plainly, "I want to make Yeon-jin lose everything." But after hearing that, the businessman simply replied,
왜 안 추워요? 옷이 얇은데.
Surprised by the weight she held in his heart, Dong-eun quickly regained her composure and invited him to her home, telling him, "That's where you'll find all the answers you're looking for." Meanwhile, through a corrupt police officer, Yeon-jin managed to track down Dong-eun's address and was stunned to discover that she lived right next door. standing above with arrogance. Yeon-jin sneered, mocking her, a prey bold enough to live beside the hunter. She then bribed someone to unlock Dong-eun's door and stepped inside, only to be shocked by what she saw. The walls were covered with photos of her and the entire bullying group, like a gallery of revenge.
내가 잘못했네.
Just then, the door suddenly opened again. Thinking it was Dong-eun, Yeon-jin was ready to mock her, but to her horror, it was her husband standing there. As the two locked eyes in silence, Season 1 of The Glory came to an end. Dong-eun's grand game of revenge had only just begun. Dong-eun once dreamed of becoming an architect, but Yeon-jin and her friends dragged her into hell. The pain of burning skin from curling irons, the teacher's slaps, her mother's betrayal for money, even the police refused to help, and the entire world seemed to protect the abusers. 18 years later, she returned as Yeon-jin's daughter's homeroom teacher, a silent hunter who planned every move with precision, luring the rich husband through Go, manipulating the bullies to turn on each other, and dragging each one of them down into the darkness they created. The satisfaction of an eye for an eye was the justice that years of silence had denied her. The ending left a question hanging: when the whole world abandons you, is revenge the only way out? As Dong-eun moves forward with her revenge, is she seeking redemption or destruction? What makes this series truly powerful is that it never paints good and evil as purely black or white. Yeon-jin's cruelty came from her mother's influence. Lee Sa-are's addiction was born from the hypocrisy of the church, and Choi Hae-jong's vanity grew from the anxiety of the poor trying to climb higher. It makes us hate the bullies, yet also see how evil often grows from the cracks of society itself. This story isn't just about revenge, it's about the weight of trauma, and the human nature that hides in the shadows. That's all for today's story. See you in the next episode.